Welcome. In this video I'm going to show you how I built a panel on Breakout for a Presonus HP60, a 6-channel headphone amp, to make it easier to use it with a band that keeps moving around. I briefly showed this setup in my video where I showed 7 DIY audio over Cat 5 solutions that I made a few weeks ago. If you can click up there to view that video. If you're new to my channel, just watch some of my other videos where I introduce myself. I feel like I've done that enough for now. So what are we talking about? It's this thing. This is the Presonus HP60 6-channel headphone amp. So what is it? It has an A and a B stereo inputs, and each output can listen to mix A or B or any combination of both. With this volume adjustment, you can mute that input. There's an external in for each channel, which can be mono, and then there's of course the level. The band is actually not using this setup anymore because we have moved all of the headphone amps to the pedal boards. There's a video on my channel where I show how I built one of these pedal boards. The drummer has the LD system LDA2. He bought that because he can put an external click directly into it, and the singer is using a Behringer P2, but sometimes she's also using a Shure PSM900 wireless that I have access to. When we were still using this setup, the first 2 channels would be listening to mix A and mix B, and then channels 3 to 6 would be listening to the external ins. That would give us 6 individual stereo mixes out of this thing. The first issue that we had with this setup before I built this setup is that all of the inputs on this are TRS jacks, and all of the outputs of the console we were using were XLR outs. We had an X32 with an S16, and then we also had a Midas Pro 1, which are all XLR outputs, like besides the aux outs on the X32. But let's not get into that. So first we would need to adapt the XLR outputs from the desk into the A and B mix, where we would need one of those. This is actually the wrong gender, but you would need to convert an XLR female into a TRS jack for the A and the B mixes. We would need 4 of those. And then to do all the external in, so you would need one of this which combines 2 outputs into one unbalanced cable, and it unbalances it, and we would need one of those, and then we would also need one of those with the correct gender to get a stereo signal into the external in. So setting this up required a bunch of adapters or special made cables, and the whole thing would always get a bit messy, and it took a long time to get it all working usually. Also, just having the HP60 lying around somewhere naked didn't feel good, and all the cables would get tangled up. So the first thing I did is I built this wooden box to go around it. This is just 9mm plywood, some leftovers I found at work. It's nailed and glued together. On this side I also put one handle in it, so it can very easily be carried with one hand. I didn't have any rack rails when I was building this, so inside here there's a 20 by 20 millimeter angle rod, or angle something, that I just screwed and tapped. So this is a 2U rack, but on both sides the equipment is actually in the middle, because you can't really get your hand into a 1U rack to connect stuff, and that would also just make it annoying to use all the knobs. I sunk it deep enough into the rack so that it would be flush here and it would not be touching the rack, because this is being transported without any lids. This is just the way it is. On the back side there is power in and out and 2 ether cons. This is just a standard 1U rack panel with 4 holes. All the holes are at a 90-degree angle, which I don't really like, but it doesn't matter. It just annoys me a bit. Also, the good thing about having this at 2U rack is that it can stand like this, and it's quite solid. Like, it won't fall over unless you really push it. So that meant we were able to keep it standing next to the drums or something, which was very convenient. So on the back panel there's power in and out and 2 ether cons. The first ether con is 2 balanced stereo mixes, which is the A and the B, and the second ether con is 4 unbalanced stereo for the external ins to channel 3 to 6. To see what it's all around, we kind of have to open this thing up. So we see here the back of the ether cons. I just bought some short TRS to TRS 8-channel multicore that I cut down to to do this project. That was the easiest and cheapest way to get connectors, and they were already pre-made on one side. So these here go to the A and the B, the left and the right, and then we have the external ins. These are actually wired the same, and they're just wired according to the same wiring schematic I always use. We can see that in some of my other videos. And then here we have the IAC into the unit and a loop out of the power con. I always want to have a power in and out in all my racks. In case I stack them up, I just want to be able to loop them through, because none of this stuff is drawing any power. So let's close this back up. Actually, it's missing one screw here because this hole is obviously in the wrong spot, but that doesn't matter for this setup. So the rest of this setup is actually the breakouts that go on the other side. Let's just get this here. So here we have the two breakouts. One of them is the A and the B, which is just 4 XLR cables, which would be 2 stereo balanced mixes into Ethicon. And the second breakout is the 8 XLRs going into the 4 unbalanced stereo lines. In my video where I talked about the audio solutions, I actually open up one of these boxes to show you what's on the inside. And I'll put a photo of this box, because in this box the unbalancing happens. So as you can maybe see in the photo, all of the pin 3 is soldered onto the ground. You might ask why. Well, because that's what I read on the internet that you should do when you make an unbalanced adapters. I have no idea why, I just did it that way and it seems to work. These boxes are designed and 3D printed by my friend Gusti. The STL file is available on printables or whatever. I'll just put the link for that in the description. When I built this whole thing, we had a Midas Pro 1 at our rehearsal space, but when we were playing shows, we were using an X32 with an S16. If I was building this today for my wing rack, I would probably just put these adapters into the panel on the rack itself instead of having this loose adapters. I just did it because we were using 2 separate systems. And before a show, I would usually make sure they was plugged up before we got there and ready to go, just to save time during the setup. Having these 8 cables plugged up and ready to go before we start setting up saves a lot of time and headache. These are actually labeled both with the channel number. This is channel 2, but it also says channel 3 right. Because almost always this is being connected to 8 consecutive outputs, so it's much easier to connect if it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 8 instead of having to think, oh wait a minute, that's channel, like output 6, that would be channel 5 right. It just messes with your mind. Just use numbers and labels. I always say that. So when we were playing a show, we would usually have the HP60 somewhere in the middle of the stage, usually close to the kick drum, and then we would run headphone extensions to each player. We would usually do it via an XLR, so we would have one of these, adapt this to XLR, and then on the other side we would adapt this back to TRS, and then we would just put one of these small adapters in here. Or we also had some of these, which is just, it's just the same thing, just as a cable instead of a plug, because sometimes that's better. The guitar players, they were all running the combo instrument inner cable, so this would just be lying next to their pedal board and it would go through the combo cable up to their ears. The singer had like a small mini jack extension. It was like, yeah, we got it to work. We did this because this can be extended with XLRs, and almost all of the mini jack extenders we have ever bought are a piece of crap, and they usually broke after a show or two. So this was a bit more reliable in our experience. How well did all of this work? It worked well enough. I actually never used this myself because I had my bass pedal board built before I built this. So I myself always used it. Like at rehearsals, sometimes there was some noise, but I never got around to troubleshooting it, because as soon as you started playing, it didn't matter. As long as all the channels were correct and the left and the right was correct, it worked well enough for what we were doing. Since I'm actually making this video, I think I'm going to hook this up to my wing rack and I'm going to just listen to it all. So I'm just gonna check if there's any noticeable crosstalk between the channels, and I'm just gonna troubleshoot it a bit now to see how well it works. I only have one shielded Ethernet cable here, so I can only do one side at a time. So I did connect the A and the B to the drummers and the singers' outputs on the rack. I'm just gonna set this to A, this to B. Alright, and with that, external is not being used. And I'm gonna move that out, plug my headphones in, and I'm going to go into the desk and just send something. I actually got something here on the Bluetooth connection, which I put in the ring rack, and I actually made a short on that, so you should be able to look at that here. It's quite interesting, it works. So that's Bjarni. I went on a bit of a detour because nothing worked, because I was messing around with the wing rack the other day, and alright, it's all sorted now. So let's try the A and the B mix. So now I'm listening to only the A mix, and I have the input level set straight up, I have the mix set all the way to A, and I have the level straight up. So I'm getting some metal here. If I switch it over to mix B, it's completely silent. I'm not hearing any crosstalk from A to B. And it definitely gets loud enough to crush my ears. So I'm going to take that out of A and put that into mix B. And even though I turned the mix B all the way up, it does not leak. There's no leakage between A and B. It's a good thing to know about this. So I'll go to channel 2, which should be only mix B. Alright, that was a bit of a detour again. So when I was redoing the wing rack video, I unplugged all the outputs and they weren't labeled, and I just plugged them anyway. And anyway, sorted now, part 2. I know that's what I said like 3 minutes ago. So anyway, mix B only goes to mix B, there's no leakage in between. So and now all the other channels, they should have the mix muted. So even though there's something coming in on mix B, it's muted here. Alright, so let's do the other side. I'm actually going to go and plug this up in the back. So what I did talk about before about putting numbers on all polytails, now I just grabbed any tail and number 5 went into output 5. So it was very quick and easy to connect that up. So let's now do external 3. That would be my mix. Alright, so now I'm listening to the external in on channel 3. So now the interesting thing is there any cross tack on the other? I can hear there's a bit of noise on the other channels coming from the external in, but there's no noise on the coming from the external in 3 on the other channels, and the noise it's barely audible. I only hear it if I'm really listening to it, and as soon as there's any music playing, it definitely disappears. So that works. So now I'm just going to check that all the channels work. So that's my channel. Yeah, that is left and right. Siki, our guitarist. Left and right. Storgeir. Left and right, and Baldur. So I did discover something. On the 6th channel, there is actually more noise than on all the others. This could be because that channel is actually next to the power supply. Like the external stereo in is right next to the power supply on the device. I think that is the issue. So I'm actually going to try swapping the channels just to make sure it's not the output. And if that's the case, that's just a bad design by the manufacturer. That has nothing to do with what I'm doing here. Yeah, I think the issue is that just channel 6, the external input, just has noise on it. Probably because it's right next to the power supply. So if you have this device, know that. So I could work around that by using the last channel by listening to the A or the B, which I can try now. Start the external in. Just going to do A. Turn up A. Yeah, I don't have A connected, that's right. But yeah, that's an interesting, and this is the noise that I heard from the system. So that's just bad design by the manufacturer. It has nothing to do with my setup. That's good to know. Yeah, but it would be quite easy. But it would be quite easy for me just now to move the external in 6 to, let's say, external in 2, and just change the routing on the front. So that's something to keep in mind if I use this again. So as I figured out just now, the only noise issue that I have encountered with this system is actually related to using the external in on channel 6. It could be just that this device has some problem with it, or it could be a generic manufacturing design flaw. I don't know. But the thing works. Yeah, I could sort that out by using the B channel for channel 6 and plug that in, but since I'm not using this, I'm not really going to solve this problem. But it's good to know that the problem I had heard at the rehearsal space, like, oh, there's some hum on it, and I just said, all right, maybe my design is just doing something bad. But it turns out that's not it. If there's anyone in Iceland who would like to buy this system, we're not using it anymore. We're willing to sell it for a reasonable amount, like basically just the cost of the materials. Just contact me, comment, like call me, I'm in the phone book. If anyone wants to buy this, it's for sale. I don't really feel like shipping internationally. It's just more hassle than it's worth. If you have any questions about this thing, just let me know. I just wanted to share this idea because this is definitely one of the cheapest ways you can do in-ears for a 6-people band. The band had this before I joined, and I was just helping them implement it. If I was doing the whole thing from scratch, I would probably just buy a bunch of MA400s and spread that all around. But this does have a particular use case, and also this could work for a studio environment. So hope this gives you some ideas. If there are any questions about this, just let me know in the comments. You can always contact me on Facebook, Instagram, phone book, email, whatever. I'm happy to answer all questions. And if you're in Iceland, this thing is for sale. So that's the end. Please subscribe to my channel, watch some of my other videos. If there are any questions, comments, or you would like me to cover a certain topic, just let me know. I promise at some point I'll start talking about something that does not involve Ethicon setups. Soon, I promise. That's it for today. Takk og góða nótt.